I recently published a video about how the Digitakt is still relevant today, and the usual trolls came out. They came out real quick, and the general consensus about the Digitakt is that it's a classic, it's going down as a classic, and I totally agree with that. And after spending about 6 months with it, I'm quickly realizing about why and how that's true. This video is about some previous setup fails, how the Digitakt came in, like swooped in and just saved the day, and a walkthrough of how I'm using this current iteration of this setup. Unfortunately, there's no perfect DAWLESS setup, and so there's some downfalls within this setup as well, which we'll be getting into as well. And who knows, some of you might have some suggestions about that I'm just not aware of, in which case, please let me know, let us know in the comment section. Everything is nice and organized for you guys in the description in case you want to jump to a specific part of this video. And a huge thank you to Perfect Circuit for sending me the PC12. This thing is a beast of a MIDI controller. I actually visited their home shop when I was over in LA, and I've got to say that I was quite impressed. I've been buying most of my gear from them for about 2 years now. In terms of synths, effects, pro audio, and recording gear, they have it all. Their customer service is also surprisingly strong, and they ship worldwide. Every time that I check, they have some sort of sale going on every single time. So keep an eye out for that. I highly recommend checking out their website. I've left purchase affiliate links to all of the gear that's in this video and a link to their homepage as well. We'll get started with a backstory on how the Digitakt swooped in to save the day from a past iteration of this setup, sort of. Combining boxes and synths together to formulate like a live DAWLESS setup, in my opinion, is the best way to learn about your gear, to learn about the practical uses of your gear. You just learn their strengths and weaknesses so quickly. What I did, I saw someone perform live and I kind of just went with it. I said, I want to do that with my DAWLESS gear. How realistic is it? So if you have a specific idea, you tend to push the limits of whatever gear that you're using in the DAWLESS world. The set that I'm currently working on is essentially a performance of tunes that I've already released on Spotify. Here they are if you're interested. I wanted everything to be recognizable, so kind of stem heavy. So naturally the first thing in my collection that I went for was the MPC-1, which theoretically is the perfect thing for what I'm trying to do, but we found out that for this specific setup, it's not reliable. I don't want to turn this into a comparison video. I actually documented how the MPC-1 is not reliable in this particular setup. If you're interested, here it is. Essentially, the problem was that it just doesn't want to cooperate as the receiver of MIDI information. It's killer at sending information, but at receiving, it just doesn't cooperate. And this is where the Digitakt swooped in and saved the day. It's covering everything, drums, melodic parts, and it receives MIDI information like a dream. We've got 8 tracks on the Digitakt, so the first few are drums. This one's empty, and then we have bass and like a melodic riff. In this particular track, I actually haven't filled everything up. There's still room to add some more. The Digitakt works so well with the PC12 because there's 8 tracks right here for these 8 tracks, and then there's 4 more to add other effects, maybe, you know, with a different instrument, the SP404 perhaps. Or you could control global effects on the Digitakt as well. So for example, this is delay and this is reverb. Let's just play with that for a second. So in order to set up all of these CC information, you have to take a look at the end of the Digitakt's official Elektron manual, and you can assign all of that as you want on the PC12. So for example, all of these up here are for filters. These are delay sends. These are reverb sends. So example. I could also use these buttons down here to mute and unmute tracks as well. Just with this, there's a lot you could do. This is sort of the tip of the iceberg, and I think that with practice, you could make a performance just out of this. And so for what I'm trying to do here, the Digitakt is the best piece in my arsenal currently. It's handling all this like an absolute pro. I haven't had any issues here. It's just been totally fluid. Light years better than the MPC at receiving MIDI information. The idea of the set was to pretty much completely eliminate menu diving, which is why I picked up something like the PC12. All of my controls are right here, except for changing patterns and the fill button on the Digitakt. So it's minimal. This is a good time to transition into the downfalls of this setup. The first downfall is that my gear is dusty. And my understanding is that the thing I'm about to mention is actually a problem with DAWLESS, like pattern-based setups in general. It's not because of the Digitakt. Actually, what I just said is incorrect. I recently hosted a synth event and someone brought the Octatrack as well as the Analog Rhythm 4. Sorry, Analog Rhythm 2, I wish. I can't give you any thorough information on like the workflow and how he did it, but he showed me. He was jumping from one pattern to the next, and the effects like filters and whatever that he was adding over top of this were transitioning with those pattern switches. So at least in terms of the Elektron world, and I'm assuming other groove boxes as well, this is a Digitakt issue. Now, back to the video. Within the Digitakt free flow effects, transitions aren't really possible. So what do I mean by that? Let's say I'm transitioning from pattern 3 to 4 and I want to add some sort of reverb or filter transition into that next pattern. So you might have noticed that when I enter into pattern 4, everything snapped back to completely dry. And same thing, let's say I'm playing in pattern 4 and I'm making some changes, filter, whatever, and I go to pattern 3. Right, so once again, everything snaps back to the last thing you did in that pattern. There's no overlap there. The parameters are pattern based. This is a definite limit, and it just completely ruins the flow from one pattern to the next. Because the tracks that I like to perform are repetitive, I'd like to have that sort of free flow control from one pattern to the next. So what would be a solution to that? Hint, hint to the SP404, possibly in a different video, hint, hint. But another solution is to condense the amount of patterns that you use within your set or within your tracks, or you could just put everything onto one pattern and slowly layer things as the track goes along. And with the PC12, that's very easy. I'm just gonna reset everything here. Let's say I'm gonna start with kick and the riff. We've definitely gotten somewhere at this point, but I feel like overall it can get a little bit stagnant. I could definitely add some more elements to this track, but I think that the art of the drop is the next thing I'll be looking into to keep my live audience interested, and possibly some more melodic freedom with like an actual synth that I could play parts on. Like there's a lot of things that we could do to enhance this setup, but that being said, I'd like to keep it compact, so nothing too extravagant. And of course, you guys will hear all about it in future videos. Just as a personal development thing, I'm actually at the point where the tracks that I'm producing within my DAW are, I have the DAWLESS workflow in mind when I'm producing those tracks. And in that sense, I feel like I'm reshaping the way I think about music. It's definitely a creative risk, and I'm not sure what the outcome will be at this point, but you know, oftentimes when you set limits to producing, you come up with something even more creative or something you might have never come up with before. And so as I mentioned, these limits they're just the DAWLESS way. Everyone's approach to making music in DAWLESS is completely different, and their setups reflect that. And I think that's part of the reason why the DAWLESS community is so tight-knit. So like, for example, I'm giving you all of my setup pretty much, like all the ins and outs of it. Let's say you take that exact setup and apply it to whatever gear you have or to your musical experience, you're gonna come up with something completely different. So the concept of things being stolen in DAWLESS, it's like it doesn't even apply. And so that is my DAWLESS take of the day. There will definitely be some more iterations of this setup, or maybe another one, perhaps. I really am enjoying the process of where it's going, and the idea of being able to perform something. It's really exciting for me. And this is a journey that I'm planning on documenting. So if you guys have any like requests or ideas, let me know in the comments. Hopefully this was informative in some way to you guys. If you like this content, consider liking and subscribing, maybe even sharing, commenting. I've left purchase affiliate links to all of the gear in this video, so the Digitakt, the PC12, as well as the SP404 MK2. They're all perfect circuit affiliate links. So that's all in the description, and I would make a small commission from that sale if you do end up using those links, so please support me. That's what I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.